teaming up is teaming up. Yeah, that was a strong contender of best book boyfriend ever. If you love Avatar, if you love Fourth Wing, I think you will love this. My man who gets down on his knees. Why are you doing? Where is that going? Why is it going there? Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to a brand new video. My name is Leanne and I share home, lifestyle and book content here on YouTube. Today's video is my, what month is it? May. My May reading wrap up. We're now into June. It is the 4th. Last week I shared my June TBR, if you haven't seen that already, but this week we are talking through all the books that I read in May. And I'm going to have to recount because I've already forgotten. I did read 12 books in May. So we're back onto a good reading roll. I can't remember how many books I read last month now, but I know the total was a little bit lower than it has been, but that's like back up to what it was. I've done a couple of audiobooks and then a couple of books I've done a mixture of physical and audio, and then obviously there's been physical reads as well. And we're going to talk through them all. But first, as always, we are going to go and make a coffee and get comfy and get cozy. So we are back and I have my coffee. I added some vanilla syrup today. Still a bit hot actually. So 12 books to get through. So we better get started. I have some notes to make sure I remember everything. And book number 1 of the month was A Bond So Fierce by Sophia Saint Germain. This is book 3 in the Compelling Fate saga. I've read both previous books in the series this year. I started book 1 in January, I think. Because this is book 3 in a series, it's hard to tell you what's going on without making spoilers for previous books, so I won't go too much into details of the plot, but Alessia is a half fae and she has the powers to control people. She has very strong magical powers, and she is under, at the beginning in book 1, she is under a curse from the Fae King, and he forces her to infiltrate the mortal elections. That is where this whole story starts, and basically it is her fate to save everyone. It's her fate to save everybody. So book 2 for me really felt like it was building to something. There wasn't a huge amount of plot. It was more building to something else. In my other review, I likened it to season 2 of House of the Dragon. If you've watched that, there was like building, and just at the point where you felt like stuff was going to happen, it ended, and that was the same for book 2. So I was very excited to start on book 3 because I knew all the good stuff was about to happen. This book is full of action, it's full of heartbreak, it's full of emotion, and Alessia is finally ready to go up against the Fae King. This really did pull on your heartstrings. Like, there was heartbreaking stuff happening right in the beginning of the book. The main couple are fully together at this point though, so I didn't enjoy their relationship as much. A lot of the tension and the yearning has passed because they are together. I did enjoy some of the side characters' relationships though, because there are 2 other Fae males and they have burgeoning, is that the right word? Burgeoning relationships in this book that are like just starting to build, and those are really good. I did enjoy those. Like I say, this book was an emotional roller coaster. I did really love it. It had great drama, fantasy. It's everything that I wanted from a series, and that is why I gave it 5 stars. If you love a fantasy series that's got a strong female character who is there to save the day, there's lots of political intrigue, then this series, The Compelling Fate Saga, I think you will enjoy it. At this point in the series, it was really giving me Throne of Glass vibes. I was very excited about where it was going to go. The second book that I read in the month of May was In a Thousand Different Ways by Cecelia Ahern. This book is a contemporary fiction, and I have never read a book by Cecelia Ahern that I didn't enjoy. I've read quite a few of her books, I own some of them, and she's just amazing at writing beautiful stories about life and love and all of that stuff. They are always emotional, they always make me cry. This book was one of my library books, so each month I pick 2 books from the library and I pull prompts out of my TBR jar to pick those books. The prompt for this one was a book with a number in the title, so that is why I chose it. I found this one. There were a couple of number book options, but I love, like I say, I love Cecelia Ahern, so that's why I went with hers. This story follows Alice, and we meet her when she's only 8 years old, and then we travel with her through her life throughout the story because she gets this ability to see emotions in colour. The book has a scientific explanation for this. It's not like a fantasy novel, it's set in the real life. Apparently there is a condition that can make you see emotions in colour, hear music in colour, things like that, and she has this thing. I can't remember what it's called now, but if you Google it, it will come up. It's a real life thing. Alice lives with her mum and 2 brothers. She's got a younger brother and an older brother, and her mum has depression and bipolar, and it's her mum's illness that triggers this ability for her to see colours. She has very different relationships with her older brother than she does her younger brother, and all 3 of the children deal with their mum's illness very differently, and that's all part of the story, like how they deal with her and her depression. These migraines as well, they cause a lot of issues for Alice. The colours are really bright to her, so she always wears sunglasses, which makes her vulnerable at school. She gets picked on a lot, and also she gets in trouble a lot because she refuses to take the sunglasses off because of her eyes hurting, and then she ends up going to a special school for problem children. And basically we just go with her through her life story and how this condition affects her and affects all the choices that she makes. And then once she gets to adulthood, she actually meets somebody whose colours that she can't see, and then we learn more about this relationship and how that affects her life as well. Overall, it was just a really beautiful story about life and relationships and family, and as well, like I say, how different things can affect people in different ways. Like people can go through the same life pattern but turn out completely differently. It was a hugely emotional read, and I did cry. Like I say, I think I've cried at every single book Cecelia Ahern has written. If you don't know the author, she wrote P.S. I Love You, so you might have seen that film, which I am going to say is the most shocking film adaptation of a book I have ever watched in my entire life. But that's a completely other subject, but that is who Cecelia Ahern is if you've never heard of her, and I would definitely recommend this book. I gave it 5 stars, as well as any other book that she's written. I felt like I was on a roll at this point because I'd had 2 reads and 2 5-star reads at that. So we move on to the book that I read next, book 3, and that was Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is one of the most heartbreaking, it's not heartbreaking, I don't know, it's just such an emotional, heart-wrenching, that's the word, one of the most heart-wrenching love stories I've ever read. First Taylor Jenkins Reid book that I've ever read. I know she has quite a few, and I think they're all like quite different scenarios but all love story based. This was my second library book pick for the month. The prompt that I pulled out for this one was a book with 2 or less words in the title, and I saw Emmy Rossum reading this on a reading vlog of hers. She really rated it, it made her cry, and so I was kind of interested in reading it, and when I saw it in the library and it fit the prompt, I picked it up. And if I'd picked this book up and looked at the cover or read the blurb, I would never have picked it based on those things, especially when I read the back and saw that it was based at NASA and to do with space. It would have gone straight back on the shelf. So I'm glad that I saw someone else read it and saw someone else recommend it, because it's one of the best books that I've read this year, I think. I won't go into too much detail on the story because I kind of went into it blind, and I feel like that was best, like as things develop, not knowing what's going to happen. But it does follow our main character Joan, and it's set in the 80s, and she's always been obsessed with space and wants to become an astronaut, and actually manages to do that. Where the story starts, she is at NASA, and she's, you know, that big room that you always see in space films where they're all at like little computer desks and they're talking to the team that's out in space. That's what she's doing in this book, and the team that is on the space shuttle that she's helping are some of the people that she trained with to become an astronaut. So it cuts back and forth between her being part of mission control, that's what it's called, isn't it, being part of mission control, and then also it cuts back to when she was training to be an astronaut and when she was getting to know these people. If you've not read this, I would definitely say pick it up, and I would also say don't let the fact that it's based at NASA put you off, because I bawled my eyes out at this book. In fact, I did a TikTok where I filmed my reaction just as I'd finished, and I look an absolute mess. Like I say, this was my first ever Taylor Jenkins Reid book, and I am definitely excited to try some more of hers, and I rated this one, Atmosphere, a 5 stars. Book number 4 of May, I read Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I feel like everyone was reading this last year. There was a bit of time on TikTok when all of my favourite book content creators were reading it. Mariana Reads, Emmy Rosen read it, and everyone was loving it. So that is why I put it on my 26 for 2026, and that was the prompt that made me pick this book this month, because each month I try to read at least one book from that list. This is book 1 in a series, and it's a dystopian sci-fi set in the future, and in this future there are humans living on Mars, drilling for this substance that's going to help them make Mars a livable planet. So all the people on Mars, they are very poor, they're living in poverty, they don't have a lot of food, a lot of comforts. They basically have the bare basics of life, but they feel like they're on this mission. They feel like they're doing this for future generations of humans to help with the continuation of the species, basically. So they think, even though life is hard for them, they think it's worth it, or at least society has basically brainwashed them into thinking that it's worth it. The society is split into groups, and those groups are like colour coded. So the golds are the highest in society, they're the ones that run everything, and then the reds are the lowest, they're the ones that live on Mars doing the drilling. This story follows Darrow, who's only 16. He's already married though, and he's already working. He drills for this substance, I can't remember what the substance is called now, but for whatever reason he ends up finding out that this is all a big lie. He makes it to the surface, and he actually finds out that humans are already living on the planet, and they've been living on the planet for generations. So as you can imagine, he is not happy about this at all, and he ends up teaming up with some rebels to infiltrate the golds. Like, the golds are obviously the elite, the ones at the top of the pile, but even amongst themselves they have this institute where the golds compete to be, there's a word for it, I can't remember, but it's basically super golds, the best golds of the best. So they compete to do that, get the best jobs, things like that, and Darrow, that's what Darrow infiltrates in this story. This was my first foray into what is a real sci-fi space kind of story, and I really enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to continuing with the series. There was a lot of heart-wrenching things that happened in this book, but from what I've heard, it gets even worse as the series goes on. I think the next book in particular is supposed to be rip your heart out type of story. So we'll see how that goes. I will definitely be continuing with the series, and I gave this book 4 stars. On to book 5, and this wasn't on my TBR for the month. I had, obviously at this point, some books left on my physical TBR, but none of them were on my audiobook app, and I recently been really enjoying listening to audiobooks when I'm doing the cleaning, stuff like that. So I wanted to find something else that I could listen to. I use the BookBeat app, and I think I have a code that gives you a free month, so if I do, I'll pop that in the description below. There are quite a lot of books on there that I want to read, so it's worth checking out. But I chose to listen to Spark of the Everflame, and then I also, once I'd started this, did it as a mix of audio and physical because it is also on Kindle Unlimited. So Spark of the Everflame is book 1 in the Kindra's Curse saga, and it's also on my 26 for 2026, so that was another tick off that list. And I have wanted to read this for a while, obviously, and I can't believe I put it off so long because I loved it. So this series follows Diemme Bellator. She is a mortal living in the mortal world, but the world has been colonized by gods, and then these gods had offspring called the Descended, and then these Descended now rule over things, basically. The Descended were created by the gods to look after the mortals, but obviously everyone always gets a bit power hungry, don't they? And now the Descended rule over them. They're living in luxury, the mortals are living in poverty. So the book starts off with Diemme's mother going missing, and then she takes over her mother's role of, well, she is a healer anyway, but her mother has been looking after the king, and she takes over her role to be healer to the king. So she ends up going to the palace and meeting the king's heir, who is Luther Corbois, and he is a new contender, strong contender of best book boyfriend ever. I don't think he's quite knocked Xaden off the top spot, but he is very good. I very much love Luther Corbois. Diemme is already in a relationship at the beginning of the book as well with a mortal called Henry, and Henry has gotten himself tied up with some rebels who aren't happy with how the world is, with the Descended ruling over them, and then he ends up dragging Diemme into working with the rebels as well, which obviously, because she's working in the castle, is it a castle? I think it's a castle, palace, whatever it is, because she's working in the palace to heal the king, she's in a good place to help them with whatever rebel plans that they have. There is a big reveal at the end. I don't know whether I fully guessed it or I just had an inkling, but I still enjoyed it anyway. It was a really good plot twist and a really good ending to book 1. Personally, I think this is a really good romantasy series. I've read book 2, which I will talk about later on in the video, but if you love ACOTAR, if you love Fourth Wing, I think you will love this. I know some people do not like Diemme Bellator as a character, as a FMC, but I personally do like her. She does make a lot of stupid decisions, and you do find yourself thinking, why are you doing that? Why are you making that choice? But at the same time, with how like her life has been, her choices are pretty valid. I mean, we're not perfect, are we? None of us. I'd like to think if I had the opportunity to, you know, save the world, I'd do it perfectly, but I probably wouldn't. I'd probably make a fair few mistakes, and I like that in a character, that she's not perfect. So I actually quite like Diemme. As for the romance in the book, it is slow burn. There is a lot of tension and yearning, which I very much enjoy. It is enemies to lovers, again, excellent. And Luther Corbois, I can't tell you how much I enjoy him. And he gets on his knees, he refers to getting on his knees, he makes quips about getting on his knees, and it's a microtrope that I didn't quite realise how much I enjoyed until I was reading this. I can't remember whether it's book 1 or 2. I don't suppose it matters, because I'm going to share what I thought of book 2 later on as well. But not only does he get on his knees, he takes her shoes off or puts her shoes on. I can't even remember which. I just know that I liked it. I just know that I really like that microtrope. And it's one that continues into book 2 as well. Oh, I nearly forgot to give you the star rating. I gave it 4 stars. It was very good. It could have possibly been 5 stars, but when it's book 1 in a series, I don't like to go straight in with a 5-star, just in case the next one's better. But it was very good. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read was Veiled Court by C.N. Crawford, and I was very excited to read this because I was very lucky enough to be sent an ARC copy, an e-ARC copy, and it's my first ever ARC. I've never been sent an ARC for any books before, so I was very excited. And it's also the first ever book that I've read by C.N. Crawford, but this book is based in the same world as some of her previous novels. So I think, I can't remember what it's called. I can't remember what the series is called. Is it Avalon? is Avalon the series? Avalon Tower is the first book in the series anyway, and it's about Fae spies, and this book is set in the same world, but it's a completely separate story, so you don't have to have read Avalon Tower to read this. This story follows Sin. She is 35 years old, so it's very nice to have an older FMC, and she's an ex-assassin as well. Gotta love an ex-assassin or an assassin. We like a badass FMC. She is half Fae, and she is currently living in the mortal world, which is our world, London. She's in London, but she's trying to get back to the Fae realm because humans have overpowered the Fae and they're hunting them down. So she is trying to get her sister back to the Fae realm because her sister is unwell, dying, and she is also trying to find a cure for her sister as well. So in the process of getting her sister back to the Fae realm, she ends up getting in a fight with another Fae. She kills this Fae, and then she finds out that this Fae was on her way to the Veiled Court. Veiled Court is a hidden court that has a challenge, and all the aristocrats of the Fae society are going to this court to battle it out to become the next king or queen, because the last king has died. Sin hated this king because he's the one that stole her as a child and trained her to become an assassin. So he is basically the reason why her life is the way that it is. So she hates him. So when she has the opportunity to infiltrate the Veiled Court to make sure that there's not a king like him again, and also get the opportunity to find a cure for her sister, she jumps at the chance. While she's there, there are two love interests. We have Tristan, who is her childhood friend, so we have friends to lovers, and then also we have Rion Delac, who is a High Lord, one of the people competing to be the next king. He's our moody, broody MMC and our enemies to lovers MMC. There are some really enjoyable romance scenes. There is some great tension. It is a slow burn though, so not a huge amount of spice. I don't know what the spice levels are like in any of C.N. Crawford's previous books. I don't know whether the spice will increase as the series goes on, but in this book, it is very slow burn. There is spice, there is tension, but it's not full on at this point. This is book one in a series. There was a cliffhanger, but it wasn't like a huge plot twist cliffhanger, but it was enough to make me intrigued for where the story's going and what's coming next. So hopefully we don't have to wait too long for book two. This book is now released. It was released on the 25th of May, so I read it as an ARC, but it is available now. I think it might be on Kindle Unlimited. I know that C.N. Crawford also released it at a really low price as well, so have a look for it on Kindle, but you can buy physical copies as well. I gave this 4 stars, and I also think I'm going to read some of her other books as well. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed her style of writing. I really enjoyed the banter, and there's quite a lot of a comedy element, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all of that. Next we went back to the Kindred's Curse saga and Glow of the Everflame. That's book 2 in the series. I was very happy to go back to my Luther Courbois, my man who gets down on his knees, and I think this is the one where he takes off her shoes. I think it's in this book, but anyway, let's go back to the plot. So book 1, DM was working at the palace, but also working with the rebels, and then we had a huge plot twist. This plot twist, without any spoilers, has now given her the opportunity to make changes to the world, to the way it works, and to make it more fair for the mortals so the Descended aren't ruling over them and stuff like that. She is still tied up with the rebels in this book slightly, and then she also spends a lot more time with Luther Courbois. This book has a trial-based plot as well. She has to take part in some trials, which I love that in a fantasy series. So we have scenes with her training, working on herself, improving herself, stuff like that. I love that. The ending of this book, I thought book 1 had a plot twist and a cliffhanger, but this one even more so. With her mum going missing in book 1, the way that storyline, the way I thought it was going, it ended up being completely different, and I was totally surprised. I actually can't see where book 3 is going to go. I don't know, but I'm excited to read it anyway. I'm excited to get back to my Luther. I did give this one 5 stars. I am loving this series. I think it's going to be a god tier series for me. I don't want to get too ahead of myself because there's still 2 more books to go. One is released, and then the next one is coming out September, the final book in the series. I don't want to jump the gun, but I think it's going to be a god tier series for me. For my next book, I entered my Shadow Chronicles era. I've been watching Emmy Rosen read the whole of the Shadowhunter Chronicles recently, and it made me want to read it. Shadowhunters is a series that I didn't read as a teen. Obviously, it was very popular. A certain type of book was very popular at that time. A lot of them were made into films like Divergent, Hunger Games, Twilight, all those sorts of things. The Shadowhunters is a series of books that I never actually read. It is quite a long series at this point. There are a lot of books. I am slowly buying them on Vinted. I don't want to go too crazy and buy too many at once because I don't know, what if I don't like them? But so far I have the 6 books in the Mortal Instruments series and I have the 3 books in the Infernal Device series. So obviously we're starting with the Mortal Instruments. The reading order I'm doing is the same one as Emmy Rosen did, and she has some videos on her TikTok account explaining the reading order that she chose if you're interested. So we're starting off book 1, City of Bones, and this series is by Cassandra Clare. I can't remember whether I said that. I've never read these books, but I did watch the Shadowhunters, the Mortal Instruments series on Netflix, so I kind of remembered some things. I didn't watch the movie. I know there was I always thought the Netflix series was a different part of the story than the movie, but I've since researching post reading it, it's the same story. The film was the film of book 1, and then the series I think did all 6 books. Anyway, I digress. There were some parts of the story that I remembered, basically. This book follows Clary, who discovers that Shadowhunters exist, and Shadowhunters are the offspring of angels, and they are here to keep mortal people, which are called mundanes in this book, to keep the mundanes safe from demons. They also keep control of the underworld population. The underworld, so there's vampires, there's werewolves. Basically, the saying of a Shadowhunter is all the stories are true. So all those types of creatures, mythical creatures, they are real in this book, and they are like the underworld. They're like the police of the underworld, basically. Make sure they don't get out of line and start attacking mundanes, eating mundanes. But the Shadowhunter's main role is to hunt demons. Clary is being hunted by demons. She encounters some Shadowhunters in a club, but she shouldn't be able to see them. The Shadowhunters do their magic by painting tattoos on themselves. So they'll paint a tattoo, and then once the magic has run out, it disappears. So they put tattoos on themselves to make themselves invisible to mundanes, but Clary can see them. So that's where this story starts, because why can she see them? Why are demons chasing her? One of the Shadowhunters that she meets is Jace. He is our love interest for this story. Clary is 15 and Jace is 16, and this is something that I really struggled with at the beginning of the book because the characters are still immature and some of the choices they make are stupid ones that I, as an adult, can see are stupid choices. But once you kind of get into that mind frame that they are a lot younger, it's a lot more enjoyable. I would say it took me a good 50% to get invested into the book. I think some of that was slightly because I remembered parts of the series. I was trying to remember things, so I don't know whether that was like taking me out of the book, but it took me about 50% to get fully invested, to get on board with the world building. But once I was there, I really started to enjoy it. This isn't a series that's immediately hooked me. I did like it, I did enjoy it. The Shadowhunters Chronicles has a huge fan base and they must love it for some reason, but I am not immediately hooked. I gave this book 3 stars. I did like it. I am excited to keep going, but I'm hoping after a few more books I'll be really hooked and really enjoying it a lot more. There are a lot of books in this series. I'm not quite sure how many, but with all the like novellas and stuff, there are a few for me to get through, so I will be reading it for a while. The next book that I read, I was so disappointed with how this book went, but I read the 4th book in the Compelling Fate saga, A Fate So Dark and Delicate, Sophia Saint-Germain. Book 3 was a 5-star read for me, and I was so excited for this last book, so excited to continue with the series. But I have a lot of mixed feelings. I can't go into full details of the story without spoilers for the previous books. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody if you've not started it yet. Lesia is a half fae and she is fated to save the world. It just felt like this book was building and building and building to some Like something was coming. It was obviously, it's the final book in the series. Obviously you get that feeling like something is coming. There's going to be this big finale, but the finale just fell really flat for me. It was like so much going on, and then just like that, everything resolved. Everything's over without any real explanation either. The author is writing another series that is linked to this one that involves some characters that you meet right at the end of this book, and me personally, I feel like she sacrificed the ending of this story to instead set up for what's coming next. The ending was so anticlimactic for me. Nothing was explained. Nothing was explained. Also, the main couple as well, I mentioned in book 3, because they're already fully together, I had kind of lost interest in their relationship. And this is slightly a spoiler if you've not read it, so skip to the next book if you don't want to know. But Lesia and Merrick end up together. They are together in this book, and I do not like them as a couple. I do not like Merrick. He's far too controlling. For a huge part of the book, he won't let her out of his sight. He won't let her do anything on her own. He actively tries to convince her not to do the things that she wants to do, that her as a person feels like is her destiny. He's actively trying to stop her from doing them, and he only really redeems himself quite close to the end. It just didn't feel like a very nice love story to me. Like, love is supposed to be something that makes everything else in your life better, not something that consumes you to the point where you don't need anything else. And that's what that relationship was giving for me. It was like they had each other, they didn't need anyone or anything else, and it just gave me the ick. I didn't like it. It didn't feel like some great love story to me at all. I didn't enjoy the spy scenes between the two of them, because number one, at this point it's getting very repetitive. They've been in love since book 2. I don't need their spice. It's pointless to me personally. That's how I feel once a couple are together. I don't need to know what's going on in the bedroom. The tension's over. Also, the spy scenes were very biological. Instead of feeling the tension and the emotion of the scenes, it was just like a description, like reading a biology lesson. Again, like I mentioned in book 3, there were side characters that had love stories or relationships progressing, and I did enjoy those a lot more. There was spicy scenes? I think there was a couple of spicy scenes with these side characters, and they were much better than the main characters, and more like the spice scenes from books 1. I don't think I minded the spice in book 2. The spice in books 1 and 2 was so much better than the spice in books 3 and 4. Overall, I was just so disappointed for a series that I really thought was going to be amazing. It was giving me, when I was reading book 3, it was giving me Throne of Glass vibes, and it's nowhere near. It's not a bad series. It's not a bad series. I just don't feel like it. I don't think it didn't need book 4. Everything that happened in book 4 of note could have happened in book 3. What actually happened, what built and built and built towards the end, with how quick it was resolved, the author could have included that in book 3 and it would have been an amazing series and an amazing ending. I just felt like she should have put a lot more effort into completing this series rather than setting up for the next one. So I hope you're still with me. We are making it through. We are on to book 10, and my 10th book of the month was The Crimson Moth by Kristin. Is it Kristin? Yeah, Kristin Ciccarelli. Oh, I've just realised I never gave you my star rating for the last book, A Fate So Dark and Delicate. I gave it 3 stars, which for a finale, so disappointing. 3 stars. Anyway, back to this book, The Crimson Moth. I listened to this as an audiobook. It's book 1 in a duology. Sometimes it's called The Crimson Moth and sometimes it's called The Heartless Hunter. I don't know why, but the duology is The Crimson Moth duology. This book follows Rune, who is a witch, but nobody knows she's a witch. She is pretending to be some dumb airhead in high society in order to stay under the radar, because she is the Crimson Moth and she saves witches, because witches in this world are being persecuted. They used to rule, but now they are being systematically hunted, and Gideon is our witch hunter in this story. So Rune wants to use Gideon in order to get intel, and Gideon suspects Rune, or somebody suspects Rune, so Gideon is tasked with finding out if it's her. So they both enter into a fake relationship, but obviously each of them has ulterior motives. As soon as I saw that that is where this story was going, I was hooked. I really enjoyed how their relationship built, how they were like confused. Are these feelings real? Are they still just using each other? I really enjoyed that. So it was kind of enemies to lovers, even though they were both pretending that they weren't enemies. So that was really interesting as well. I liked that. I really also enjoyed the world building in this. I really enjoyed the magic system. So the witches cut themselves and use the blood to do magic. I thought that was really interesting, and it's something a bit different than most of the fantasy series I've read recently. I also love that it was set in a high society world, because I love balls. I love the descriptions of the fancy clothes and everything like that. I really enjoy that in a book. There's also a lot of other relationships going on, like friendships, found family, things like that. There is a slight love triangle with Rune, Gideon, and Gideon's brother Alex. Alex has kind of always been in love with Rune, but Rune's a bit blind to it, to be honest. She's a bit stupid because it's quite obvious. But yeah, there's a little bit of a love triangle thing going on there. And then as the story goes on, it's like mixed messages. Both of them, both Rune and Gideon, both think that they are doing the right thing based on what they've gone through. If they just had a conversation, actually, it could solve a lot of problems. I find that's the key to a lot of stories, but I enjoyed it despite that. There is a bit of a twist at the end, a surprise ending, which I liked. I say a bit of a twist. It was kind of like a surprise, but the author had left clear clues throughout, so you can kind of see it coming. It wasn't kept as a secret. You weren't blindsided by it. And I actually like that. I don't think you always need to be completely shocked by where the story's going. You can still enjoy the reveal, even if you kind of know it's coming. I am looking forward to continuing and reading the next book, which is called The Rebel Witch, and I gave this book 4 stars. It's very good. So the next book number 11, this was my book club book for the month, and it was Insatiable by Lee Rivers. Now, you know that I am not a dark romance girly. I have attempted a dark romance in the past and I DNF'd it. I was kind of interested to see whether I would like this or not. I can't really work out why it is that I don't like a dark romance, to be honest, because I've always liked the bad guy. But there's just a lot of things in dark romance that I don't enjoy. I don't enjoy the fact that the MMCs are apparently often controlling, stalkerish. That's not for me. I don't like when they call the female characters names. I don't like when they degrade the female characters. It's not the fact that the men are morally grey. That's not why I don't like dark romance. It's the way that the MMCs treat the FMCs. That's the thing that I don't find enjoyable. In this book, we follow Cade and Stacey. They used to be in a relationship when they were younger, but something went wrong. They're now separated and they now hate each other. And obviously, as we go through the story, we find out more as to why this is happening, and we also cut back to when they were younger and see how they got together as well. So we cut back from present to past. The way the book was written, I did find it really easy to read. I was intrigued and wanting to keep going with the story. So I can see why this is so popular to people who do enjoy dark romance, because it was easy to read. I did find it a bit annoying that there wouldn't have been a story at all if anyone had just opened their mouths and had a conversation. They could have avoided all of this if they just spoke their truths. The MMC just does some really weird things that are not for me, like stalking, killing, highly possessive in a very creepy, controlling way. I did enjoy some of the spicy scenes, the more tame ones, and then there were others that are not for me at all. There was play, and if you enjoy playing a book, I am very happy for you, but I can't take that seriously, because number one, why is there a gun? Why is there a gun? Number two, if there is a gun, why are you doing it? Where is that going? Why is it going there? Why are you doing that? Why do you want? No, play's not. Oh no. Play's not for me. Clearly I don't enjoy that at all. I haven't fully decided whether I'm going to continue with the series yet. I am kind of intrigued. I do want to see more of Tobias. I'm not like desperate to read it, but I think if there's ever a point where I don't know, I need something to read, I might give it a go. We'll see. I don't know. I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't terrible. It's just the genre is not for me. The genre is not for me. I think there's a good dark romance if you like dark romance. And then our final book, this was another audiobook that I did. I listened to Yesteryear by Caro Claire Burke. I have seen so many people talking about this on TikTok and I was just a bit intrigued. And to be honest, I was surprisingly hooked from the very beginning. The story follows Natalie and she is a social media tradwife, and honestly, this character is awful. You will not be rooting for her at any point in time. She is a horrendous woman with horrendous thoughts and horrendous feelings. But anyway, the basis of the story is one day she wakes up and she's no longer an Instagram tradwife. She is a real tradwife in the 1800s. And then the story keeps cutting from what is her present day, the 1800s, and then back to our present day where she's a tradwife, how she became a tradwife, how she became a social media influencer in that genre. It was a really intriguing story, and all the way through I just couldn't see where the story was going. I was intrigued, but I just couldn't see where the end game of this story, or what the end game of this story was going to be. I was shocked when I found out what Endgame was. I was shocked with the ending. I don't know whether it's hard. It's a hard one. Like, I don't know whether I did enjoy it. It was shocking. It was intriguing. It's not like a fun time read. It's more of an intriguing read. A lot of the story did make me angry as a woman, because as awful as Natalie is, we as women, it doesn't matter what path we choose, we are going to get judged for it. And a lot of the time it is women judging other women for making a choice that's different to their own, and that does make me sad, because we as women should be celebrating and supporting each other, not attacking each other. My battery just went and died on me, didn't it, on my camera, so I'm just filming the end on my phone. I can't even remember what I was saying, but I think just the storyline and the way the world is unfair for women. A lot of the story is thought-provoking and makes you think about the way the world is going now and the way women are being treated and perceived in the modern world, and how that compares into the past. It's a thought-provoking read. I gave it 4 stars. Anyway, that was my final book of May. 12 books, I think that's pretty good title. Like I say, some of them were audiobooks. If you've made it to the end of this video, thank you very much. I know it was a long one. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found some book recommendations on ones that you've not read before and that you might be interested in reading. Let me know if any of the ones I've read you have read, if they were your favourites, what you thought of them. Did you agree with me? Did you disagree with me? My June TBR was posted last week, so if you're interested in knowing what my books are my planned books are for this month, you can go and watch that. But I will be back with another video soon. I've had 2 book videos in a row, so it's probably going to be a home-based video next week, but I don't have anything fully planned yet. We shall see. If you've enjoyed the video, please like, please subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.